Hey everybody, it's Valerie with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and I'm here to do the overview of this absolutely beautiful paper pad that we got in. It's by Stamperia and it's called Dream. And this is a 8.5 by 6.5 mini album. It has a 3.5-inch spine and this beautiful little Tim Holtz ornate plate. I used one of Shellie's DBS frames and some, I think they're petaloo flowers and petaloo canvas butterflies. Anyway, it's a 12-page album, and I'm here to show you what it looks like. So we've got this cute little peach trim, and I have a little surprise for you on the back. I actually added one of our new gems that we just got in. It's pearls and gemstones, and then on the back of this cute little card. And if you want to, you can actually put something on the back of it to write on. But I thought it'd be cute to put maybe a little card in the back. That way, if you're giving it as a gift, you can put like who made it and maybe a little thought about it on the back. So let's get inside. Take off our little hook and eye. And this is a really thick album. So page 1, I'll kind of zoom in a little tiny bit, has a beautiful little laser cut butterfly on it. And it opens up this way, has a little, I'm going to have to move around a little bit for you, sorry. Opens up, I've got a little Tim Holtz hanger, comes open this way, another little Tim Holtz hanger with another little round sentiment card, and then these are obviously we can do 5 by 7 pictures, and on some of the backs of my cards, I put some of the little papers that you can write on. This came out of our Heidi Swapp notes, and I use them throughout. And then these beautiful Desire dies. And you can also put lots of pictures in here, obviously. This is a cute little idea. This has a zipper, and it works. So you can actually put stuff in it. It's a pretty good sized pocket. There's a cute little Tim Holtz charm on it. And I have a mat with a little mini bloom. And then in here, again, I use the Heidi Swapp notes. You can make notes and actually put pictures. And you can slide a picture in there as well. Our beautiful lace that we got. Page 3, another pretty little butterfly with some jewelry gems. This opens up this way. Bring it down. You have a little pocket up here that you can write on this. Or places for smaller pictures. We've got a nice size pocket, again with some great photo mats. We could put a picture here. Page 4 is a waterfall using those Heidi Swapp pages again. This has got a magnet. Open it up, and you've got journaling, and you can just throw a picture over these. You've got these little cards that come out. More places to put pictures. This has got a cute little pocket, another little Heidi Swapp. These are the receipt pockets that we have. And the backs of some of these little circles also have little journaling spots on them. So there's plenty of places to journal, and you can use these pages for pictures or journaling or whatever you want. Next page has another cute little pocket. So we've got another little Tim Holtz journaling, and the back of this has a place to journal as well. I tried to give you lots of places to not only write, but you could put small pictures on these as well. And this has a pocket. Got more pocket. You can put a lot more mats in this pocket than what I have in here. Set this aside. And over here you have this little journal card, and on the back of it, it also has a place to journal, so you don't have to write on your pretty paper. There's a pocket in here as well, so if you wanted to stick another little picture in there, you can. There's a pocket here with another great huge picture mat. Then this opens up, and you've got a place here with a pocket that you can put a picture. You can put a picture here, and folds out. So you've got picture space here, and a floating mat. And then, surprise, this comes out, and you've got a place to put a picture here. I didn't put anything on the back of this, I should have. But you can put a picture back there as well, and then it just slides right back inside this little pocket on the side where this mat is, and closes up with a magnet. Now these have magnets on them. Next page. These have hinges, and then these pop open, and then there is a little journaling pocket over here. Put a picture in there, and then there's big, huge mats in the back of both of these. So let me put those mats up there. This one hinges up. This opens up. More big, huge mats. So you got your mats, and you've got places you can put pictures, and you could actually put some pictures back here if you have some smaller ones. More beautiful flowers. Okay, next page. Again, I told you this is thick. So this opens up, and you've got another little place to put a picture or journal. This little card comes out, and this little card has journaling on the back of it. This comes down, and you've got another card here, a floating mat, and a place for a nice big picture. These are also held on by magnets. The next page comes open this way. You've got a little place back here where you can put pictures. There's another little journaling mat. This opens up, another place to put a little journaling mat. And some of these bigger pictures, I actually put some places to put journaling on the back. Now you can throw another picture right over the top of that, or on the front, or put two pictures. Plus there's another huge space here for another big picture. Again, magnets. And the last two pages, these could have journaling on the back of them. Look at these. And then you have big picture mats, some of them with journaling on the back of them, and another place with some beautiful lace. And I love this Sophia die. I think it's just beautiful. And it's covered with some of our leather paper, or specialty paper. It is reinforced so that the little Tim Holtz hangers won't bother it. Another one over here. So I loved making this album, and this paper says its own name. It is dreamy. So let's get started building your own Stamperia Dream mini album. Are you ready? All right, so let's talk about what we need to make this project. We are working with this beautiful new Stamperia paper that Shellie just brought in, and this one is called Dream. And indeed, it is dreamy. We are going to be using 2 paper pads, so every page that you see in here, we will have duplicate of. And I cannot wait to put this together. So there is our paper pad. This is our beautiful Prima Marketing artesian leather paper, and this looks good from either side. So we're going to be using some of this. The beautiful Desire Beatrice, and she looks like this when she's cut out. Desire Sophie, and she looks like this when she's cut out. Heartfelt Creations Delicate Border Basics. Number HCD17118. Heartfelt Creations Floor Border Basics. HCD17120. To clean out my dies, I'm using Spellbinders Tool-in-One. And the 2 1/8 white rosette Venice lace. Looks like this. The flat 3/4 inch Rochelle lace. Tim Holtz hanger clips. These are so cute. Tim Holtz cameo frames. Tim Holtz ornate plates. For our closure, we'll be using large hook and eye by Dritz, and these are the antique brass. We're going to be using our Colorbox Cocoa to make some of the edges of our paper look a little bit more distressed. This should match very nicely with our leather paper that we're using ours. We're going to be using our Fisker's rounded corner machine as well. Tim Holtz Bouquet, which are just beautiful white flowers. Kaisercraft Mini Blooms, Coral, Kaisercraft Mini Blooms, Sea Breeze, Petaloo Botanica Collection, and these are Magnolia, Coral. Beautiful, aren't they? Petaloo Botanica Collection, Magnolia Blush, Petaloo Textured Elements, and these are the Burlap Blossoms in Apricot. Designs by Shellie, Resin Frame in Copper Bliss. Designs by Shellie, and these are the Laser Butterflies, Wood Charms, 6 in a pack. Okay. Heidi Swapp, Journal Pad, the Make It Happen, and I think these are going to be really cute to add in. Heidi Swapp calendar stickers. These are so cute. They're going to make great little embellishments. Okay. Heidi Swapp receipt pockets, and these are really cute. These have, these are just really cute little clear pockets with some gold on them. Jolie Boutique, and these are the Pearl and Gem Cluster stickers. A 5-inch white zipper. Diamond stickles. Silver stickles. You will need 2 packages of 1/4-inch score tape. 2 packages of 1/4-inch score tape. Art glitter glue, and I'm using the metal tip that comes with it, or it doesn't come with it, that you can buy extra, I'm sorry. Art glitter glue and the metal tip and pin. I will be using 110-pound black cardstock. We do sell 65-pound at the store, but we do not sell the 110-pound cardstock. So you can use a 65, but I will be using 110. Tyvek to help put our album together, and you'll just need some strips of this. So one of these envelopes will last a long time. 2 pieces of medium weight black chipboard, 12 by 12 inches. We sell this by the piece, or we also sell a packet of 25. Obviously 25 is going to last you a long time. Some other accessories that you might need, or you will need, is a ruler, a pencil, a craft knife, a pair of scissors, optional hot glue gun, a scoreboard, and a cutting mat. Medium weight chipboard, okay? And we are going to cut them both pretty much the same. So take your first piece, and I want you to measure over 8.5 inches and cut. In fact, take both pieces, measure both of them over, okay? Both pieces measure over 8.5 and cut. Okay, so you should have this. Go ahead and set these aside for just a moment. Take these 2 pieces, turn them this way, measure over 6.5 inches and cut on both. So both pieces measure over 6.5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. These 2 pieces you can keep for another project. So go ahead and set them aside. Put these aside for a moment. So these should both be 8.5 by 6.5, cover and back. Okay? Now, go get one of these pieces that we set aside. You should have 2. Go ahead and put one of these with your extra that you have for another project. Take this long skinny one, which is 12 inches by 3.5, measure 8.5 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Take this small piece and put it away with the other pieces for the other project. And this is what you should have left now. You should have your spine at 3.5 by 8.5, a cover and a back, or a cover and a back, that are 8.5 by 6.5. All right, so you go ahead and set your medium chipboard aside for a second and get out your ruler and your Tyvek and a pencil, and I want you to measure over, and this is one envelope, so it's double thickness. So you can go ahead and cut off this piece right here. You won't need the flap. And then you're going to measure over on the side. Let me go ahead and cut this off. All right, so this is my Tyvek envelope, and I went ahead and cut off the strip that has the adhesive on it, and then I made sure that I had a nice straight edge, so I cut off the little excess. So what you need to do is just take your ruler, measure over 1 inch and up 8 inches. Okay? So you're going to measure over 1 inch and up 8 inches. And this, since this is doubled, it'll cut 2. So you want to cut 2 strips of Tyvek that are 1 inch by 8 inches. Okay, this is what you should have. 1 inch by 8 inches. Get your scoreboard out. And we are going to score these right down the center at 1/2 inch. Now this can be a little tricky, so if it starts to squirm around, just hold on to it. Sometimes I actually kind of start from the middle. So hold on tight. Okay, right down the middle on both of them. 1/2 inch. Okay, like I said, sometimes it helps to kind of start it. There you go. Okay, get your score tape out. Take each of your pieces of Tyvek and fold them in half. This is the peak and then the opening. Go ahead and fold them in half. All right, so take the side with the peak up. As you can see, this is the peak. Okay, and you're going to put your score tape right along the side of the crease. I'm on the right side of the crease. Do not put your score tape on the crease, just to the right side of it, okay? So you're going to run your score tape right along the right side of it. Okay, don't get any over the edges. If you do, we'll have to cut it off. And then just to the right of that, right along the far right edge, once again. So you're covering the entire side with score tape. Okay, once again, don't go over your edges or you'll have to cut it off. Okay, see, I went over my edge, so I'm going to cut that off. I'm just going to flip it around to the other side that doesn't have score tape and do the exact same thing. Run my score tape right along the fold to the right of it, and then another piece to the right of that. So we are basically covering the entire back piece, or the entire back of the score tape, minus the crease that we made, the fold. Okay, you're going to do that to both pieces. So this is my second piece. Score tape all the way down on the right side next to it. Now if they overlap, it's perfectly fine. Sometimes it's really hard to get an exact piece of Tyvek to be like perfect. I can't run mine through my cutter, so okay, so I'm turned it around. I'm going down the other side now, all the way to the end, and then again against the right hand side, covering the entire back of the score tape, or I'm sorry, the entire back of the Tyvek with score tape. Make sure it's down tight. Cut off any pieces that are hanging over. All right. Get out your spine piece, the 3.5 by 8.5, and get your ruler. And you are going to make a mark at 1/4 inch and 8 1/4 on both sides. So 1/4 and 8 1/4. Turn it over to the other side. 1/4 and 8 1/4. Okay, get your Tyvek and refold it. Okay, so you got your pieces all nice and folded. Take the score tape off the back of one side, the score tape backing off the back of one side. Okay. Now, this is the side that the adhesive is off, or the backing is off of. My peak is going to go to the left. Okay? So, peak on the left, opening on the right, backing off the other side. So the backing is not taken off this side. Lay the bottom of it right up against the line we just made, the 1/4 inch line. Butting it right up against here. So this peak is butt up right against the left side of your spine. Give it a little tap. Run it right along the edge here. Okay. It's a little short. It's okay. This is getting covered up, so mine's a little bit short, but that's fine. Go grab one of your sides. Doesn't matter, whichever one. They're both the same size, okay? Butt it right up against. Now, here's a little secret. Whenever you're not covering your album, and we are not going to be covering it, you always want to get your cleanest side. So this looks like my cleanest side is here, all right? And over here is like the rough side that I cut. So I'm going to put the rough side inside. So that means that my clean sides are going to be the ones that are exposed. Butting it right up against the spine. Okay, now we got to take off the backing on here. So you kind of don't have to worry about the butting part until you get your backing. So get your tape backing off. Okay, now, butt it right up against, take one of your 8.5 by 6.5 pieces, butt it right up against so that they're even. Now make sure they're even at the top and the bottom, okay? I'm going to push over in the center, go up and go down, okay? So make sure that's on there nice and snug. Okay, so now you have a hinge. Got it? Set aside for just a moment. Get your other piece of Tyvek. Take off one side of the score tape backing. My craft knife is very helpful when it comes to this because even with or without fingernails, this can be a little more difficult than you think. Okay, get the backing off of your score tape. This time, bring over your spine. Okay, so peak on the right, opening on the left. Put it right up against your little mark that you made. Give it a little tap. Guide it right along this edge so that it's right up against the edge. Make sure it's down nice and tight. Okay. Peel the backing off of the other side of the score tape now. Bring over your other 8.5 by 6.5. Check your sides for your roughest side. This is my roughest side today. Looks like these are pretty. I'm going to put it right up against. Now, I have a little bit of rough sides at the bottom, so I put my roughest bottom side at the bottom, so that's why I flipped mine over. Butt it right up against here, so it's even. Push your score tape in the center, up, down. Make sure it's on nice and snug. Okay? Do not ever bend your book backwards. You will break it. So, there's the beginning. Go ahead and set this aside for just a moment and get out a piece of one of your black 8.5 by 11 cardstock. We are going to measure 2 pieces of cardstock that are 1.5 by 8.25. Okay? So I'm going to make my marks at 1.5 and 3 and 8.25. So obviously we're only going to cut off 1/4 inch. So go ahead and cut 2 strips of black cardstock that are 1.5 by 8.25. And I am going to cut them this way. So I'm going to go over and cut off 1.5 and then 1.5, leaving this piece. Okay? Okay, so these I am not going to keep. This is what you should have. 1.5 by 8.25. Take this piece and set it aside. Just real quick, let's talk about the stock versus reserve. This is the way we set things up. This is considered your stock, okay? So whenever you have a piece of extra stock, cardstock, it goes in a pile that we call stock. So I'm going to set this in my stock pile. Once we start cutting our pretty paper, we're going to be putting that in a reserve pile. So you're going to have a stock pile and you're going to have a reserve pile. You are also occasionally going to set something aside. Setting something aside means that you've already reserved to use it. It's being set aside because it's going to be used for something specific. So technically you'll have 3 piles, but right now stock is going to be anything that's cardstock that we are not using right now. Anything reserve goes into our pretty paper pile, and anything that I say set aside, make sure that you set it completely aside from your stock and your reserve. Okay? All right, so I got out my scoreboard, and we are going to score these two pieces down the center exactly the same way that we did our Tyvek. So since these are 1.5, you're going to score on 3/4 on both. Never overscore. In other words, don't ever press so hard that you break your paste. Score both of these down the middle at 3/4 of an inch. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fold these. And a little secret, whenever you score something, especially something as thick as 1/10 pound, there's a difference between the direction you score. As you scored, you made an indentation, okay? On the other side, it makes a peak. You always want to make sure that when you fold so that your peak is on this side and the part you scored into is on the inside. Otherwise, you'll have a crack on your paper. Can you see the crack? So if you score and fold away from your score, excuse me, it will crack your paper. So go ahead and fold both of these. We're going to line these up and with score tape exactly the same way as we did. Make sure that your peak is up. So peak is up, lay it down, score tape just along the right hand side of the score line. Do not go over it. If you go over, you'll need to cut off anything that you go over. Then along the right side of your piece of cardstock, right along the right edge. Okay? Once again, do not go over the edges or you'll have to cut them off. I'm just going to turn it around. Do score tape again along the edge of the score fold, not going on it. And I'm going to have some trimming to do. And along the far right side. Those of you who do tutorials with Shellie and I both, you already know how to do all of this. But for my new people, we have to keep them in the loop so that they know what we're doing. So now I've taken the other piece, doing the exact same thing. I'm running score tape right along the very right hand side of the fold and one right along the edge, and turned it around, running score tape right along the edge of the fold and along the outside edge. Get your scissors out and trim off anything that went over. I'm going to make sure that my score tape is down nice and tight. I'm using my bone folder. These are going to cover the Tyvek. So go back and refold. We're going to get our album out. I'm going to turn it this way so you can see. I'm going to be making a mark with my ruler once again. And I'm going to make the first one at 1/8 of an inch. And the second one at 8 3/8. Okay? So technically each one is 1/8 of an inch from either end. Okay? Turn it around to the other side and do the exact same thing. Make one at 1/8 and one at 8 3/8. Alright. Taking one piece of my cardstock that I just put my put my score tape on the back of. I'm taking the score tape backing off of one side, folding it over, peak on the left, opening on the right, score tape that's not taking off at the top. I'm going to press it right up against the original fold of my Tyvek on the little line that I made. Okay. Run it straight down on just on the side of the fold. Okay. Make sure it's down nice and tight. Okay. Go ahead and pull off the score tape off the other side of my cardstock. Score tape backing off. Okay. I'm going to press over in the center and up and down. And once again, I'm going to make sure that everything is on there nice and snug. Get my other piece of cardstock. Take off the backing on one side. Fold it. Okay. I'm going to keep working on my right. It's easier for me. Take my little piece, put it right on my little 1/4 inch mark that I made. Run it right along the side of the fold. So I'm not right on it, but I'm literally right next to it. Fold it down. Do the same thing on both sides. Take off the back of the other side of the score tape. Push over in the center, up and down, and make sure everything's on there nice and snug. Okay, so now you've covered up your Tyvek, and your book should look like this. Once again, never fold backwards. Go ahead and set your album aside for a moment, and I want you to get out 5 pieces of black cardstock, okay? 5 pieces, there you go. We are going to cut all 5 of these pieces exactly the same. So to start, we are going to measure over on the landscape, you're going to measure over 6 7/8 and cut. All right, because this is what you should have. These are 6 7/8 by 8.5, and then you have these 5 pieces that you cut off. Take these 5 pieces and put those in that stockpile I was telling you about for later. Now, take all 5 of these, and you're going to turn them, measure over 8 1/4 inches, and cut all 5. All 5 of these at 8 1/4 inches. Okay, this is what you should have. I am not going to keep these. So you have 5 pages that are 6 7/8 by 8 1/4. Let's get your scoreboard out. Okay, so with your paper laying at the 6 7/8, you're going to be scoring at 6 1/4 on all of them. So do not score hard like I told you. Okay, we are going to be folding these. So score all 5 at 6 1/4. And 5. Okay? Go ahead and fold on all 5. Remember, fold in. So the score is on the right, you fold in. Make sure all 5 are secure. Okay, all right, all 5 are scored. Go ahead and get out your score tape. And we're pretty much going to do this kind of the same thing, only this time we're only going to do it on this piece, this 1/2 inch piece. So I'm just turning it around, peek up, okay? So peek is on the top. So I'm going to lay a piece of score tape right along the right-hand side, okay, of my score line. Do not go over your score line. It is very important on your pages that you don't go over your score line. And again, we cut off anything like that. Okay, and then take another piece and put it right here. Let me zoom in. Okay, put another piece on the right-hand side right against the edge. Okay, doing the same thing we did with our Tyvek and our other piece of cardstock, except we're only going along the edge. So on all 5 of your pages, you're going to do the score tape exactly the same. So you can see here. Okay, so all 5 of them, pick them up, turn them over, peek up, score tape along the right-hand side of the score line. And along the right edge. Okay, go ahead and do that to all 5 and 5. Okay, so all 5 are done. Make sure that you clip off anything that goes over the edges. Make sure all of your tape is down nice and tight. This is your pages for your album. It's really important that these are down snug, okay? Because if they'll pull up if you're not careful, okay? So I'm making sure that all of my tape is down nice and tight. Okay? All right, go ahead and bring your album out. Okay, so you have your album out. Okay. All right, take one of your pages and take the score tape backing off. Fold it over. Okay, the fold is down. Now, this is the part where you're going to be very, very careful. You are going to place this edge right here, right on the right-hand side of this fold. Do not go over the fold. You want to line it up with this piece of black cover that we did earlier, okay? So, I'm going to line it right up against it, making sure that my page is to the right-hand side of that fold, okay? I'm going to tap this one down here. There. So, you see my page is right up against the fold. So, there's that spine on my new page. It's right up against this fold, okay? Fold it over. Now, the next one is going to go in right up against this one. So we're going to take off our score tape backing, fold it, okay, hinge here, put it right up against the back of the other one evenly, okay, give a little tap, okay, make sure it's down nice and tight. Fold it over. Now, this one should match up right up against here, see? We're going to do all 5 of them. Get your next page. Take your time. Okay, if you feel like it's not going in, don't rush. Okay, number 3, fold it back. Put it right up against the back. Now this one you don't have anything to line it up with, so you have to make sure you line it up evenly with the bottom of the other page. Okay, put it down, fold it over, press it down. Next page, hinge on the left, put it right up against the other one. And the last page, hinge over. This one I have my other side to match it up with. All right, so there are my pages. You should have the same, hopefully. And we're going to fold them back over again. And that's what you should have. Now my back page is very, very thin, as you can see. I'm going to have my thicker piece, my thicker, bigger opening be my front. So I'm just going to get a Post-it and label this cover. That way I won't mess up, okay? So my bigger gap is going to be in the front, my smaller gap is going to be in the back, and this is going to be my cover. Go ahead and put your album away for a while, and we're going to get our paper out. Since we'll be working with 2 paper pads, to make it easier, I'm going to take apart one paper pad and pull all the pages out of it and intermingle it in between the other one. So just go ahead and take out your paper pad, pull your paper out, and then find the sheet that matches it, which would be this one, and go ahead and put them together. All right? So this will make it a lot easier for us as we're working. We don't have to say take this out of paper pad 1, take this out of paper pad 2. You can just put them together and that'll make it easier, okay? So go ahead and intermingle your paper pads and we'll move on to the next step. Right, so it is time for us to decorate our album, and I'm going to start by showing you that I have a larger gap here and a very shallow gap in the back, and it's okay. So I want you to make sure that your larger gap is in the front, so you just turn it and this becomes your cover, okay? So just don't get confused. I always put a little thing on here so that way it just says cover. and then I'm gonna go get our paper. So in your paper pad, we're gonna look for this piece. It's got a little brown texture over here and a little swirly here. It's kind of turquoise on one side and pink in the middle. And on the other side, it's pink with some roses. I want you to take this piece, and since we don't have any tabs at the top of this paper pad, we're just going to go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. This is going to be the back and this is going to be the front. So just go ahead and lay them on top of each other. Turn them clockwise now so that you have the lettering on your left and the swirl on your left. And we're going to measure over 8 3/8 and cut. All right, so this is what you should have. These 2 smaller pieces, we're going to go ahead and put those in our reserve pile that we talked about earlier, and we're going to go ahead and get out our album. So this is the way we're going to lay this out. The one with the little swirl is going to be on our right side, and we're going to place this with an approximately an 1/8 of an inch border from the top, the right, and the bottom, leaving about, it's almost about a 1/2 inch, I'm guessing. Not quite. So we want to leave this side. We're going to cover the spine with different paper. And the same with this one. We're going to place it to the far left, leaving approximately an 1/8 of an inch border. So let's start with the cover. Go ahead and get your score tape out and we'll score tape the back of it. Now make sure you are score taping on the pink side. And we're going to score tape a frame all the way around. Okay, and because we're going to be embellishing the cover with frames and flowers and things like that, we need to put a little extra on. So I'm going to go down each side to reinforce. Go turn it around, reinforce the other side. Okay. Down the center, and then in between those on both sides. So we don't want it buckling or falling off with all of our embellishments, okay? Make sure that your score tape is down nice and tight. Using your craft knife usually makes it a little easier to release the backing on the score tape. And if it's not down snug, pull our score tape off. Bring my album back. Okay, now I want the brown texture on the left, the little white swirl on the bottom right. You want to measure this and make sure that it's even all the way around so that you have the same border. Should be approximately about an 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Make sure it's down nice and snug. Okay, go ahead and get out the back piece. Once again, we're going to score tape the same way. Frame all the way around. A little extra on the sides. Now we do have a clasp going on the back, so we want to make sure that that doesn't have any stress on it. Down the middle. And a short one on each side. Not really short. Okay, make sure that score tape is down nice and snug. And again, we will release the backing from it. Okay. Bring your album back over. Lettering is legible and reading to the right down here. We don't want to put it on upside down. You're moving this to the far left-hand side and once again putting the same amount of border all the way around. Should be approximately an 1/8 of an inch. And there you go. Now I'd like for you to go ahead and get one of your pieces of Garcia leather. This is artesian Parisian leather paper. It's a Prima Marketing, and it's Frank Garcia's Memory Hardware. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the label off the back of it. Okay, so we're going to measure over 5.5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put your larger piece in your reserve pile for later. Now we're going to take this piece and turn it this way, measure over 8 3/8 and cut. So this is what you should have. Take your smaller piece and go ahead and put that in your reserve pile for later. All right, so we are going to make some marks. Now I'm on the portrait and I'm at the bottom, and we are going to make some marks where we're going to score. So the first mark is going to be at 15/16. Okay, since my scoreboard does not do 16ths. And the second one is going to be at 4 9/16. Okay, now it's going to be a little tough to see those marks, but they're on there and they're kind of shiny when you look at them. So let's get out our scoreboard and get ready to score. Now, if you can, I know you can see my first little mark is right there, and I'm just lining it up with the closest score tag up in the scoreboard and holding it nice and snug up against the top and scoring my paper right down the closest line to my score. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line up my little pencil mark with the closest score. I think that's it. See my little pencil mark there. And I'm going to score down the closest score line to that. Okay? Now I want you to lightly fold. And I mean lightly. I mean just kind of just bend it over a little bit. Find your score line. But don't press, okay? Just lightly, lightly, lightly. Okay? Get your score tape out. So we are going to be very careful not to score on our score lines, okay? So you want to put your score tape just to the right of the score line that you made. Close, but don't go over it, okay? And if you go over, you'll need to clip off anything that goes over, okay? Then you're going to put one to the far right edge of your paper and one down the middle. So you should be able to get 3 pieces of score tape on here comfortably. Okay? Anything that goes over, we're going to cut off when we're done. Turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. So one right next to the score line, to the far outside, right down the middle, and we're going to go on the inside, just to the left of the score line. Turn it around, just to the left of the score line. One down the middle. And on either side. Okay, if you have anything poking over, get it all off. Okay, make sure your score tape is all down nice and snug. We'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have everything on and it's all nice and tight, I'm going to take off one side of the backing of my score tape. Okay, and that's just on the side over here on the right side of the score line that I made. Okay, I'm going to get my album out now. Here's where it's really important. This is my cover, okay, and it's the correct way up. I'm going to line, this is where it's hard to show you. I'm going to line up, I don't have any of my score tape off the back, so I can actually press it kind of up against the back of it. So I'm kind of, let me zoom back out, trying to line it up straight. My fold is right there. I don't want to put it on just yet until I get it all lined up. So I'm lining it up. I'm getting my borders lined up at the top and the bottom. Okay, I'm going to press this down on the cover. So that's pressed down, okay? Now, should fold around to the other side. Now what you're going to do is you're going to leave your album so that it's kind of at a square. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the back spine and the rest of my score tape backing, okay? Once you get it on one side, the rest should be pretty easy because we're just going to push from the center to the back and adhere it. So go ahead and get off the rest of your score tape backing. I say that like you're going to rip the score tape off. All right. Okay, so what you're going to do, hold on to the top, press in the middle, okay, then up, then down. I'm turning so you can see, press in the middle, then up, then down. Okay, so, okay, that's what you should have. Now go ahead and open your album, press it down, and just put your fingers up and down both seams to get all of that score tape down nice and neat. All right, go ahead and open it back up. And look at there. Got it? Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so I set my album aside for a moment and I went into my paper pad and got this piece out. And it looks like this on one side and then it has all these cute little circles. Also too, you're going to go out and get your DBS frame that you're using. And I'm going to cut out one of these circles to fit right in this frame. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this circle out. So the first thing you'll want to do is just go ahead and measure over and cut right between these circles. It's about 4 1/8. So go ahead and measure over between these circles and cut. I'll go cut mine and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put these ones in my reserve for later. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut between these ones. All right? Be right back. Okay, so we're keeping the one that says A Kiss to Build a Dream on. And these two we're going to go ahead and put in our reserve. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get my frame out and make a pencil mark of the size. And then of course I will cut it just a tiny bit bigger, obviously, so it will fit in the frame. Okay, so this is what I have. So I'm just going to make my pencil mark and then just hand cut. Now, like I said, I am going to hand cut it a little bit bigger, obviously, because I need it to fit and glue on. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. It's safer to cut too much than not cut enough. You can always cut off, you can't get back. I am going to go ahead and put this in my reserve. Double check. So I'm going to get my glue out after I get rid of my little pencil line and glue it on. And I like to put my glue on here so that I don't overstep. Got some glue on. I'm going to place it there. We're going to let that dry for a minute. So I took a little bit of my diamond stickles and I just ran a little around the edge of the frame. Now you can just put a little sparkle just on this rim. I'm going to have to let that dry. Okay, so I'm getting things ready to do the cover. I know it's not like me to do the cover, but since I am not using paper flowers, I'm comfortable with creating my cover ahead of time. I would like for you to get out your 2 1/8 rosette Venice lace. And by the way, I got one of my Petaloo canvas butterflies, and I added stickles, and this is the diamond stickles to it, and I'm letting it dry along with my frame, okay? So we're going to cut our lace, and I am going to place it so that the flowers are right along the edge and a little bit curled over, okay? What I'm trying to do is just camouflage this little line with the edge of this lace. Plus we need our room for all of our frame and our flowers. So go ahead and cut your lace. So I'm going to cut it right here. Excuse my reach. Right down the middle of there. Once again, I use score tape. Now my score tape is actually going to be underneath of the actual rosettes. So I'm going to put it right along the edge right here. I'm going to put my rosettes, and my goal is to have this line right here. These little things right here are going to go right along the line of the paper underneath. Okay? So just like that. Trying to keep things out of your way. So make sure that you're down nice and tight. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and glue down these little pieces right here. There's a little bit of glue on the tips of these little scallops so they stay down. I had to laugh the other day because a lady wrote and said that she didn't mind watching glue dry, but she didn't like to watch paint dry. I had to giggle at that. Alright, so we get all these pieces down. Now the glue dries clear, so if you get a little bit on it, it's okay. But that's going to make that nice scallop cover up that straight line. And then I'm going to glue down the back. And this is going to be a little bit trickier because the leather paper is shiny, so it takes a little longer for it to adhere. I'm going to let that dry and I'll be right back. I am on the back now, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with the lace. So I've also cut a piece of lace for the back, and I'm getting it ready to put on here as well. I'm going to get it on exactly the same as I did the other side. Alright, trim off those little crazy looking things. And go ahead and get this glued down. Make sure that you get all of the little scallop wings and let everything dry. So I have decided to take my 3/4 inch flat Rochelle lace, and I'm going to measure a piece that fits right along the edge here, and I'm going to glue it right on this line on both sides. The weird little straight line on here, for me, just bugged me. So I'm going to put a lacy edge on my lace. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Add my glue and place it right along the edge. Give that a second to dry. Okay, so while my spine is drying, I can probably start putting my embellishments on my front. So I've got my frame, and it should be nice and dry. Also, I need you to get out your drits. I'm going to go grab mine. Okay, so I'm going to put my hook on as well. So put some glue on the back of my frame here. Now I don't use hot glue. You can if you like. I just choose not to on this piece. And get it as centered as I possibly can. It might go a tiny bit over your lace, but that's okay. We just want to get it kind of centered on there. Get a hook out, a clamp out. Open up your drits. Now you won't need the hook right now, but you will need the eye. I'm going to get the eye part, put some glue. I always tend to do this upside down than the way I need to do it. Get it centered. Make sure that you have enough gap for your hook, and I do. My clamp that down. Make sure if it moves, you don't put it back, okay? Getting out my Petaloo textured canvas butterflies and flowers, and I'm going to get a butterfly. and a couple of the little flowers. Okay. And then I'm getting out my Petaloo Magnolia Blush and my Magnolia Coral flowers. And I have chosen a medium size coral, a smaller blush. Okay. Those are the ones I've chosen to put on my cover. Let me start with the biggest one. And I do use a glue gun. That is optional. And I'm going to put my first one right there. These came with some beautiful sparkles already on them. So I pre-sparkled up my butterfly, and I just have them sitting there, but I pre-sparkled my butterfly to match. So it's been sitting drying. I think I talked about that earlier, and if I didn't, I apologize. And he's going to go right there. I'm going to put another one right here. I'm trying not to cover my entire beautiful frame, but make it look like it's framed around it. And I'm going to put one right there. I'm going to try and not be so heavy-handed with my embellishments on here. Put that one right there. And I'm going to put a couple of the little teeny canvas flowers that came out of the pack with the butterfly right on top of my drits. And then I'm going to add some stickles. So let's get these added first. Just a little cover up. Grab my stickles, my diamond stickles. Just like I did with the butterfly, I'm just going to enhance the sides of these flowers so that they match the flowers that we put on from the other packages. Okay, and it'll take a couple extra minutes for that to dry, but that's okay because we can set this aside. So I've never done this before, but you know what? I am going to get out my Tim Holtz ornate plate, and this is the cover that we tore off from our paper pad, and I'm actually going to use a piece of this cover to fill my frame so that I don't have to cut up another piece. So I'm just going to take my pencil, get it where I want it, make a little mark just like I did with my frame. And then I'm just going to cut out this piece. And again, I'm not wasting a piece of paper because this came right off the cover that you probably weren't going to use anyway. But, you know, just FYI, there's some cute little things on here that you could cut out. So you might want to think about that. I'm going to go ahead and turn this, my little circles right here. And well, actually, I'm just going to go cut over and cut this off. And I might even use some more of these pieces later. So basically, I kept this little piece. And I'm going to cut this in half in a minute. And I have these little sentiments right here that I can cut out later if I want to. And this little piece even right here is kind of cute. So these are all usable. I don't know why you couldn't use them to cover pockets and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve as well. And then I'm going to cut right between these so I have this piece too. Alright, so I'm going to put this little piece in my reserve. And I have this little piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out, leaving a little bit of room around this oval so that I have something to attach. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve. Now, I should be able to fit this in there and just glue it right down in there. Okay, I'm going to get my pencil marks off. You know, the more you save, the more you have to work with. This pad is already, remember, only 20 pages between the two pads. So it's better this way. Let me put some glue. Place this in here. And now I'm going to take the little brads put them in the holes. I'm going to bend them back so that they're underneath. You may glue this down, but at least it looks like it's actually on there with the brad, so it looks better than having those holes. Probably has to dry for a second. I'll be right back. Alright, so just put a little bit of glue on there. And this, again, because it's on this glossy paper, is going to take a couple extra minutes to dry. So you can set that aside and we can start working on something else. Okay, in your paper pad you should locate this. It has kind of a, it's hard to explain. It looks like a Victorian wallpaper print on one side, and on the other side it has all these cute little sayings. We're going to go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. I want these little pieces to be at the top. So we're going to put them to your left, and then you're going to measure over 8 inches and cut on both pieces. Okay, this is what you should have. The smaller 2 pieces are going to go into your reserve, and these 2 pieces are going to be page 1 and 2. We're going to go ahead and set these aside. Do not put them in your reserve. And in your paper pad, I would like for you to look for this one. It's got these cute little, almost look like tags or pockets, long tags and some little sayings at the bottom, and on the other side it's pink. And we are going to be cutting straight down the middle, which is at about 6 inches. So measure over 6 inches this way and cut. This is what you should have. I want you to go ahead and cut off this top one that says greetings. And I also want you to cut these apart right here. So cut between here, cut that off, cut between here. Okay, this is what you should have. I want you to keep this one, keep this one, put this one in your reserve, keep this one, and put these in your reserve. So this is what you're keeping out. So for just a moment, just set this one aside. Now we need to go ahead and cut around these, and as you can tell, they are not square on the edges. So we're going to just go ahead and basically fussy cut around these. Now, they also look like they're kind of torn, so it won't really matter if you don't get all the edges exactly perfect, because it's going to get a little bit of ink on it anyway, because I'm going to ink the edges. So go ahead and just cut around, and I'm just kind of loosely cutting as close as I can to the edges. But like I said, I am going to do some inking, so it's okay if they're not perfect. It's going to kind of look like they're distressed, I guess. And I want you to cut around both of these. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw these little pieces away. In your reserve, you should have this large piece that we cut off earlier. It was probably from our cover-ups. So it's 8 by 8.5. I want you to measure over. This is the 8 side. I want you to measure over 4 3/8 and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put the smaller piece into your stockpile. Go ahead and turn this and measure over 6.5 and cut. And this is what you should have. Take the smaller piece and put it in your stockpile. Get out your Be Positive. And go ahead and get out, to set this aside for just a second, get out your cocoa pigment. And we're just going to do the sides lightly. Just a little bit around the edges. Kind of get rid of that white edge. Especially if you didn't trim it all the way, this will really help to tie this in. Okay? Just going around the edges. Don't go crazy, little brown edge. And while we have it out, let's go ahead and do the other one as well. So get out the one that says greetings, and go ahead and tip all the edges of this one as well. Alright. We can set the greetings one aside for a moment. Now this is going to go to the far left-hand side, and I'm going to go ahead and use my Fiskars corner cutter to cut the corners on this. So I'm on that one. I'm going to place this in there and cut these two corners just to round them off. It's going to be really close to the edge. I'm not a big border girl, so you've learned. Get this really close to the edge as you can, and we're going to be scoring on this side. So that's why this is bigger, okay? We can go ahead and glue this down. Leaving a small border all the way around on the left and the top and the bottom. Now it's going to be kind of a weird border because this piece is not square. Not only that, but it's got these cute little crooked edges. Now we need to get our scoreboard out. So we're going to lay this up against the edge, and you're going to score at 5/8 and 3/4 of an inch. Okay? So score at 5/8 and 3/4 of an inch. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and fold. Okay, so I went ahead and folded. Okay, so you have a tiny little 1/8 of an inch spine on there. And this is folded on the right. Okay? Go ahead and get out to your page 1 paper. I'm going to go ahead and attach this. So you want to make sure that all of your folds are on the top. Push it right up against the right hand side, even with the bottom. Pinch, turn it over, and glue it down. Turn it back over, push it back so its spine is flush. So let's go ahead and get our magnets out. We are going to need a total of 4 magnets. Go ahead and get them all out now. Put one of them right here. I'm going to get my score tape out. Okay, so it's on the other side. So this is on here with the score tape. So in your reserve, you should have this. Okay, let me zoom back out. Now I need the top right corner to match this. So I'm going to go get my Fiskars. Make sure it's the top right corner. So this is the way I have it laid out. Put it in here. Cut my corner to match. There we go. So that will match up right like that. Okay, and then I'm going to measure over here to get myself, do not go over your scores. I'm going to measure over here so I have a little 1/16 of an inch, and I'm going to go ahead and slice this off, and I'll be right back. This is the little piece I cut off. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my reserve. So now this should fit nicely with a small border all the way around. Now this we're going to cover up, okay? So go ahead and glue this down. Now I like to put a piece of score tape over my magnet so that it stays down nice and snug and doesn't leave what I call magnet bump. So it's just my preference. And we'll put glue on the back of this. Make sure it has an even border. In your reserve you should have this. I want you to cut all 3 pieces away and cut these out as well. So cut everything apart. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll show you mine. I'll be right back. Okay, this is what I have. I'm going to set these 2 little sayings on the side for now. I have this. I'm going to set this one in my reserve. And I have this. I'm going to set this one aside. Now I want you to go ahead and trim all the way around this blue piece that says "For You." So we have this funny little piece that sticks out. So I'm measuring this up, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut right along this and just cut it off, okay? Just that little tabby right there, okay? Shows what I cut off. Strangely enough, I see this becoming a pull tab in my future. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. So now this is going to be just a little bit shy, but we're going to put it on a piece of black cardstock. So go ahead and get a piece of your black cardstock out. This came from our pages, so it's going to be 3.5 by 8.5. We're just going to measure this with a 1/16 of an inch border and cut it down. Okay? Okay, so I made my little measurements. I'm going to go ahead and cut the long piece off first and then the short piece, and I'll be right back. Okay? So these 2 pieces are going to go in my stockpile. Now I want this corner to match this corner. I am going to go ahead and use my Fisker's corner cutter again on both pieces. Now make sure you're in this corner. It says for you up here. That's going to be just a little bit off, but so go ahead and glue this piece down, leaving your small border all the way around that matches. So I am going to match up this border up here, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to put a tiny line of glue right here and all along the bottom. So it just look like this. Just turn it over, put a tiny bit of glue, a very thin line right up to the corner. Put it flush to the bottom and flush to the paper. Actually, I think I will take the glue all the way up. So if I change my mind, go ahead and put glue right along this corner too, or along this edge too. We'll just make it a pocket. Okay, so now you have a little pocket. So get your other magnet half, close it up, okay? Make sure your spine is flush along the right hand side over here. Find your mate. Go ahead and put score tape over the back of it. Alright, keep the short one, the smaller one, put the larger one in your stockpile. Now measure over 6.5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Put the smaller piece in your stockpile. We need to, this is going to move over to the right. Wow, small little borders. Okay. So we need to cut the top and bottom with our Fisker's corner cutter. On the right hand side, we're going to go ahead and glue this down. It's really, really close to the edges. Now if you want to, mine is so close that I'm actually going to cut a tiny bit off and re-ink it. So I'm just kind of give it some wavy little lines so it matches. I just cut a smidgen. Mine was just a little bit too big. I'm gonna re-ink, okay? Mine was just a tiny bit too big. So instead of cutting another piece of black, I went ahead and cut this down to match. So now I have a better border all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down. This is going to fold from the other side. So the hinge is going to go on the right. The little sayings I had you set aside. I want you to get this one out, the one that says believe you can. And I'm going to cut it out and put it over the top of greetings. And this is not straight along the edges. So it doesn't really matter if you cut it out perfect. I'm going to ink the edges of this one too. I'm going to ink the sides of this just to get it to match. Glue this down. Go ahead and get your scoreboard out. We are going to score at 5/8 and 3/4, exactly the same as we did before. Okay, 5/8 and 3/4. Fold. Since I'm using one 10-pound cardstock, I tend to use my bone folder a lot more frequently because I want to get those creases to be nice and solid. Okay, got my little spine. This is going to go on the left-hand side, flush with the top. So go ahead and make sure that all of your folds are on the top. Okay, flush with the top. Pinch. Make sure you don't move, and glue this one down. Go ahead and open it up. You have another piece in your cardstock that looks like this. I am going to leave this side, leave your border on this side, your 1/16 of an inch border. Okay. Pinch it, turn it over, and make a line. So that's how much you're going to cut off that line, right? So just go ahead and cut off that little line. This is what I cut off. I'm going to go ahead and put that into my reserve. Get your Fisker's corner cutter. I am cutting this corner and this corner. Now if we're a little short, and I am just a tiny bit, I just need to cut off about a 1/16 of an inch off the edge of this. Says I'm just really, really close to my spine over here. So be right back. That's what I cut off. It just gave me a little bit more breathing room so that I'm not touching my spine, okay? Please let me apologize for the glue. Before I was going to have you glue this down, I forgot to put my magnet in. Put my magnet down here. Sorry, I totally forgot. Now we can glue this down. Upper left-hand corner, 1/16 of an inch. I had you set this aside. It says dreams do come true. Go ahead and trim off all of it. And we're going to just slice across here like we did before. So go ahead and trim everything off and slice from this corner straight across to that corner. The only thing I'm going to save is the little tag, just like I did before. The rest of the stuff I'm just going to throw away. We're going to do the same thing. We are going to cut this bottom, whoops, this corner with our Fiskars corner punch. Set that there. Okay, get out from your reserve a piece of cardstock. Same thing, 3.5 by 8.5. Set this aside for just a second. We're just going to do the exact same thing we did a moment ago. I'm going to cut this to fit. I'm going to cut the long piece off first. This piece off first, and then this piece. I'll be right back. These two pieces go in my stockpile. Okay, be measuring to make sure. Take and cut one corner with my Fiskars corner cutter to match. Get this ready to glue down. 1/16 of an inch border. Bring back my page. Oops, don't forget you got to have your other magnet. Okay, you're only putting glue. Take it, turn it over. Glue down here. Here. And a little tiny line across the bottom. Match up your corner. Make sure your spine is all the way back. Match your other magnet and put a piece of score tape across the back of it. I want you to get out your Die Sophia, please. And in your stockpile, you should have a piece of cardstock that is almost 6 3/4 by 8.5. So we're going to cut out 2 Sophias from this paper. So the first one, I just want you to go ahead and place her towards the bottom on the portrait style. Place her as close to the bottom as you can. Cut her out. We're going to cut 2. So I'm just going to cut the first one out of here. I always put a little tape like that. So go cut one of these out. We'll come back and we'll cut the second one. Release, and I'm using my tool-in-one. Here. Spellbinders, tool-in-one to clean out my die. So I'll be right back. Okay. I'm going to reuse my tape. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just take our scissors and very carefully, I'm going to set, I just want you to go straight across right here to release the die on both sides. Okay, there. Go take your paper cutter and just slice straight across here and cut this off. Set the first one aside. I'm going to go ahead and just put this in the garbage. I'm going to take Sophia and line her up one more time at the bottom, centered, and cut one more out. We'll cut your second one out and we'll be right back. Release. We are going to need to use her again, so go ahead and clean her out. Same thing we did before. Go ahead and snip straight across, releasing the Sophia die. Put this piece in your stockpile. So set your black Sophias aside for a second and get out your Heidi Swapp journal pad. And what we're looking for is 2 pieces of the mint green with this pattern on it. Okay, so get 2 pieces of this out. We are going to be using this little paper pad several times throughout the project. I'm really excited about incorporating it because we don't have as much paper with this pad to do a lot of the fun embellishments, so I'm going to use this as extra paper and also use it for some journaling. So you have 2 pieces that look exactly the same. Take these 2 pieces and cut these white tabs off. Okay, so go ahead and use this paper to cut out 2 Sophias. This on here evenly. And since you're going to do the same for both pieces of paper, just go ahead and cut these. Just if you want to know how I lined mine up, there's a bottom white line right here. It's about a 1/16 of an inch. I just lined the base of it up against that and then made sure that my distance between here and here was pretty much the same. Cut Sophia's out of both of these and come right back. Okay, got both of them cut out. I'm going to try not to tear my paper. Clean these out. Once again, we're going to release the same way. I'm going to put these in my reserve. Obviously, we can always use extra paper. And again, this one in my reserve. So we are going to cover the black stock with the green Sophias we cut out, leaving just a tiny little edge to show. Get out your glue. Put a little bit of glue. Put a little bit inside. I'm going to place this on top with just a tiny little offset. A little offset so that it shows kind of a black border. See the little offset? I'm going to do that to both of them, okay? Same with the second one. Now you might want to make sure that the glue is dry before we go to the next step because we don't want it to glue to the back of our page. I'm going to get out my color box and my dauber and I'm just going to slightly, and I mean slightly, go along the top edge. And because of these little curls, this might be a little bit more difficult to get your dauber. I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of a antique look along the edges. I'm going to do it to both of them. So this is the Cocoa color box pigment that we used earlier. I'm going to try to use this a lot to accent some of these extra pieces so that they kind of look like they went with the paper. Trying to get a little bit of the edges, kind of turning my dauber sideways. Get a little bit of some of these little openings. Okay, just a little antiquing. Get out your page one, open it up, and if you have any little pieces like this that are a little bit larger, just go ahead and clip them off. This is just from me being a little uneven on this side. Not a big deal. So take the first one, measure it evenly along the bottom, and then make a little mark to cut off right on each side so that it's even. So I just made little pencil marks right at the edge of the paper, and I'm just going to snip those off. Throw that away. So that should fit right down there at the bottom of the page. And we are just going to glue just the bottom. Now my black is not obviously all the way to the bottom, but that's okay because it's not going to show anyway, and I offset it. So I put a tiny bit of glue, and I'm just going to glue it right to the bottom of the page, flush with the bottom. So we're going to do the same with the top. I'm going to take this piece upside down, measure it evenly across the top, pencil marks, clip, throw those little pieces away, piece of glue, a little line of glue, and put this one right at flush to the top. So I really think that was the perfect accent to this page. Now you can still put things inside of it, underneath of it. You can just put one under here. I am going to embellish later, but for right now I am going to go ahead and start putting my score tape around the back of it. That way I don't have to do it later. We do not put page one in until we have finished and placed page two. Page one has a lot more space than page two in the album, so we want to make sure that it is balanced. And if you've been doing the tutorials with Shellie, we always do it the same. So we set page one aside, do page two, put page two in, and then come back and put page one straight across from it. So frame all the way around. I'm going to do a little extra on both sides because of these fold-outs. One down the middle and a short one on both sides. I'll make sure everything's down nice and snug, and I am not taking the backing off of the score tape until I am ready to put it into the book. Okay, so I'm just going to set it aside, and I will embellish once I get it into the book. Page one is done. All right, so we are ready for page 2. We have this set aside. I need you to go into your reserve and pull out these 2 pieces. They're pink on one side and they look like this on the other, okay? We're going to be using the pink side. We're going to go ahead and keep the roses at the top. So you want to turn them this way, roses on the left, measure over 5 inches and cut on both pieces. This is what we cut off. Go ahead and put that in your reserve. Now, we need these to be 2.5 inches. So I've got them like this. Measure over 2.5 inches and cut. Those 2 smaller pieces go in your reserve, and this is what you should have. So go ahead and get out your white zipper, and I want you to put glue on both sides from the zipper pull down to where the zipper stops. Now, we don't want to go too close to the zipper, so I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper on both sides when I place my paper down, because otherwise if we get glue in our zipper, it's not going to work. And I have the roses, the rose pattern on these 2 pieces of paper at the bottom, okay? So, go ahead and get make sure that your zipper pulls down and it doesn't catch on your paper, okay? So I'm double checking. See, my zipper pulls down still. Okay, so we will have to set that aside and let it dry. So let me see if you can see. Like I said, I'm up at least 1/8 of an inch away on both sides so that I have room for my zipper pull to go down between the pages. So go ahead and set that aside to dry. In your cardstock, you should find this. It's 8.5 by 2 1/4. We're going to go ahead and cut this in half. Cut it into 2 pieces by 5. So I'll be right back. So I measured over 5 and cut off this small piece. It's going to go in my reserve. Now I'm going to turn this and cut it at 1 1/8. And get your scoreboard out, and I'm going to go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch. And I know that's not exactly the center, but it'll work. Okay, and I'm going to score this one at 1/2 inch. Okay. So score these each at 1/2 inch. Go ahead and fold both of them over. Okay, got them both folded. Peek up. Get your score tape out, and we're going to run score tape just to the right-hand side of the fold. Do not get score tape on your fold. And I just ran out. All right, and then run another piece right along the outside. Now this should seem familiar to you because we did this same thing when we made our album, when we did our covers, our spine covers. So go ahead and run it on both sides of the score mark and both outside edges. It's okay if they overlap. Okay, same thing on the second one to the right hand side of the fold. Now mine are not even. 1/2 inch is not the middle, so it's okay. Just so you don't wonder why score tape fits on one side and not on the other. Both sides, so you're putting score tape pretty much on the entire side minus the score line that we just made and folded on. If anything is going over, make sure that you get it off. Don't have any going over. And fold those again. Set those aside for just a moment. I want you to get out your cocoa ink and your dauber, and we're going to ink the sides of this very carefully. Should have done this before. My bad. I forgot, and that's my fault. So make sure you fold back your zipper so you don't get any ink on it. Really doesn't matter because we're going to cut off this bottom piece of the zipper anyway, but just get some ink along the edges. Same with the other side. Now, make sure that's dry before you go pulling on it too much, okay? Mine's been sitting a while, so it's dry. I did a little bit of brown all the way around the edges. Now I just carefully just put a little brown dauber along the edges on the inside. So kind of have to twist it sideways and just kind of brush away, all right? So let that dry. So while the ink is drying and your zipper is drying, I need you to go back in your reserve, and we're gonna make another one of these, 5 inches, and cut. Put the small piece in your stockpile. and measure over 1 inch on this now and cut. This is what you should have. Put the small piece in your stockpile. Go ahead and get your scoreboard out and score it right down the middle at a 1/2 inch. We're going to do the same thing we did with the other ones. Fold it in half and put score tape on both sides of the peak up, and then we'll be ready to assemble our zipper pocket along the edge. Fold it again. Okay, now get out all your pieces. Put this one we just did on the side first. Get your zipper out. Okay, this is your zipper. Turn it over. Take one of your first ones you made. One side's a little bit thicker than the other. The side that is not the thinner side, go ahead and take the score tape off the back of it. Okay, so we're just taking the score tape backing off the back of the shorter side, the skinnier side. Fold it so that the peak is on the left, the opening is on the right, and place it right up against the edge of a piece of your zipper thing, like that. See? Okay? Don't take off this side yet. Go get the other piece, skinnier side first. This tapey part down. Peak, opening, see? On the right hand side, go ahead and place that up against the peak, right up against the far right edge. So now you have this. I want you to get your scissors, and you're going to cut off this extra zipper part. Okay, so just cut those little pieces off so it's flush with the bottom. Take this other one that we just made, the 1 inch one. Take the score tape backing off of one side, and this one goes on the bottom. Peak, opening. This is going to go right over the zipper, so you might have a little bit more problem getting it to lay down flat. So work with it just a little bit. So this is what you should have. Okay. So now we also need to get rid of the excess at the top of the zipper. And so you want to go ahead and take your scissors and cut off the excess up here. Now if you need to unzip it a little bit, that's fine. Should be dry by now, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this excess right against the top. Same with the other side. Okay, go ahead and throw that away. I'll zip it back up. Okay, so this is what you should have. So the first thing I want you to do is remove the score tape backing from the right and left sides. Do not take off the bottom yet. Now I ran out of score tape, so I will have a little extra piece here. Okay, so take that one off and take the backing off of this side. And what I want you to do is I want you to press this right side down. Take your bottom lip that still has the score tape on it and press it against the corner so it adheres. Do the same thing on the other side. So take your bottom and press it up against. Now this one's not quite as long, but it's okay. So now this, when it makes the pocket and you put something in, it isn't going to get caught on anything, okay? And go ahead and take off the bottom. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and turn this over and center it with the same amount of space all the way around, which is about 1/4 inch. Okay, so you got to make sure that everything's dry, and I do believe that mine is dry. I want you to go ahead and unzip your zipper. Okay, and what we need to do is we need to curl these edges back. So that's why you needed to make sure that these were dry. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can use a pencil if you want to, or something that you have that's round, or you can just use your fingers, and you want to start the curling process. Okay, and curl back. Okay, on both sides. Like I said, it takes a little second or two to to grasp it and get it started. Okay. Okay. Now we add the lace after the fact because if you add the lace first, it doesn't want to curl. So we're going to cut a piece of lace that fits just inside of here on both sides, okay? So measure it in there. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces. I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see I got a couple pieces. Because I have a half a rose, excuse me, on each of these pieces, they're going to go up underneath the flat part. So I am going to get my glue gun out, and I'm going to glue a little bit at a time this little piece of lace in here. I don't want it to dry before I lay it down, so I'm trying to be sensible. Okay, a little piece to trim off there. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of regular glue along the edge. Glue that down right up against the edge there. And a little glue out here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Me and my hot glue gun have a love-hate relationship. We love to hate each other. A little bit of glue down those little pieces and let that dry. You're going to get out your Tim Holtz cameo frame and take one of them out. And it comes with these little oval pieces that go on the top, and cut one of them out. Okay, so you have one of your protective covers. So what we need is one of the protective covers, one cameo, and a little ring. Okay, and in your reserve you should have this. Okay, we used it earlier. This is the cover, the pieces that we took off the cover. Mine got a little bit ripped. But what I want is this little piece that has the flower right here. So to make a template, I want you to cut around your little cover that goes on your cameo, the little protection thing that looks like a dome. Cut around it, and we'll use this as a template. Okay, so there's your little dome. That fits right in here. See that? Okay, so take it, and I'm going to put it right on the this little rose right here, this little teeny one. And I'm going to take my pencil and make a circle, or make the template. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be cutting out. Take my scissors. I'm just going to snip off, put the rest of this back in my reserve, and go ahead and cut this little circle out. Go ahead and put this in my reserve just in case. Make sure it fits. Perfect fit. Go ahead and glue it down. Don't put it in upside down. Ring it the little ring holes at the top. Take the backing off of your little plastic cover. Okay, so the backing comes off of this, so it's clear all the way through. Wouldn't make any sense if it wasn't, huh? A little bit of glue. It's a good thing this glue dries clear, huh? And let it dry. I got my cameo put together, and I pulled apart my little ring. This is just an inexpensive little ring I had, and I'm going to go ahead and close it up, and that should make a little pull on your zipper. Isn't that cute? All right, so I'm going to get out my Heidi Swapp planner stickers, and on the first side of the one that says Sunshine, there's a little sticker that says, Love This. I'm going to pull out a little bit of the black because this is the first page with this little bit of black that's in here, and it's going to be bordered in black. So I'm just going to set this right here in the corner, and then I'm going to get one of my little petaloo flowers, this one right here, glue it next to it. So I added a couple of the lighter Sea Breeze mini blooms, And then I took my diamond stickles and I put a little bit of diamond stickles on my mini blooms and a little bit more on the inside of this flower. Well, those will have to dry. Okay, so that is all done. That's a nice big pocket you can put lots of pictures in. Since I have to let these dry and I can't put anything on the back of it till they are, I'm going to set this aside for a moment and bring out my page 1. And we're going to be putting these in an album in a second, so we're going to go ahead and embellish page 1, okay? So go ahead and get out your Designs by Shellie butterfly and package and get out this butterfly. And then I cut off a small bouquet of the Tim Holtz bouquet. A little glue right there. Toss your bit of hot glue on the back of this. This is going to stick up, so it's okay. Just tuck it right under there. I'm going to take my stickles and I'm going to put some on my flowers. This is my diamond stickles. And I'm going to cover my butterfly in diamond stickles. Yeah, you can see the stickles. So we'll have to let this dry and then we'll go ahead and put page 1 and page 2 in. Now that page 2 is dry, while I'm waiting for page 1, this is going to be a little awkward, but you're going to have to try to put your score tape on the back. It's going to be really bulky, so just carefully put a border, frame border around. It's kind of awkward now that all this stuff is on here. Make sure everything's down. Go ahead and get your album out. Get the score tape backing off of page 2. Alright, all of the score tape backing is off. Make sure it's going the right direction. So we're going to place this in with an even border all the way around the sides. I have the hardest job because I can't see the top of my paper. Okay. Put that down nice and snug. Stay away from your fold. Okay. So now that you have that down, you have this to use as the measurement to put page 1 in when it's dry. So we're going to get the score tape backing off of page 1. So we're going to go ahead and put page 1 in. And we want to measure straight across, not going over your score line here, from page 2. And it's a little bit harder. I don't know how anybody does this without touching. Put that in there, right as you can. Okay. Get that down nice and tight. I don't want to squish all my stuff on the front. Okay, 1 and 2. So we can move on now. Okay, we're ready to start page 3, and in your paper pad I want you to locate this piece. It's got kind of a little, it's kind of a rosy water stain. It's kind of interesting. Has a little bit of checkered, and on the other side it has kind of the same thing. So we're going to go ahead with the roses at the top left corner, measure over 6 inches and cut. This is what you should have. So put the 2 pieces together like this, turn, roses, pretties, measure over 8 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Okay, these 2 small pieces, go ahead and set them aside for a moment. This is going to be page 3, this is going to be page 4. Set page 4 aside for a moment too. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and get your Beatrice, Desire Beatrice out. She looks like that. And a brand new piece of black cardstock. You can go ahead and set page 3 aside for a moment. So on the landscape, I want you to measure over 5 7/8 and cut. You can go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stock pile. Go ahead and turn this piece to the landscape. Measure 6.5 inches and cut. Put your smaller piece in your stock pile. Go ahead and get out your Beatrice. Turn it to the portrait. Align Beatrice to the very bottom. So she's got her tips right at the bottom. Line it up evenly on both sides. It should be very close to the edges. And I mean very close. Go ahead and tape it down, and I'm going to try to tape it to the top. That way if it tears, it will only be the top part that'll tear off and not the part that I want to use. Okay, go ahead and run it through the die cutter and we'll be right back. Okay, so close and yet so far away. I want you to go ahead and take your scissors and release the edges, and you're talking about just a tiny little hair we missed. Okay, make sure you keep Beatrice close by. We're going to be using her as a template. So I want you to get out the piece I had you set aside that has the roses on it. Okay, Beatrice is going to go this way. We want to make this tucked right up against this, and in order to make it fit, the easiest way is that you take your Beatrice the same direction, tuck your paper evenly, so Beatrice is even here, here, and she's tucked up right underneath. Now, how you know you got it even on both sides? So there's no black showing in here or any of these spots. Okay, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw lines just drew a line all the way along the bottom of Beatrice. So now you have a template to cut out. Okay, so set Beatrice aside and get your scissors. Cut right along that line. So sometimes when I get to a certain angle, I just cut off, just to eliminate more of that stuff in my way. Okay. We are going to be trimming off a little along the edges. Okay, so I'm going to throw away what I cut off. And that should fit right up underneath of there. Look at that. I want to leave a 1/16 of an inch border on the edges of my paper. So I'm going to lay my paper down, measure, measure, and I'm going to cut that little, sorry, I measured a 1/16 of, I measured in so that I have a 1/16 of an inch border on both sides, and I'm going to go cut those little pieces off of both sides. I'll be right back. This is what I cut off. Believe me, I'm not keeping that. Alright, so now this should fit with a little border, and that border happens to be the excess that was left on the edges. So you can go ahead and glue this down and then tuck it just underneath the little dots that the die made. You can see it just tucks right in there beautifully. Let's get our scoreboard out. So a little mark, I made a little mark with my ruler. I apologize, I thought I showed you that. About a 1/16 of an inch away from the, made a little mark, okay? That's my first score mark. So I'm going to line up my pencil mark with any of the scores, which happens to be at 5.5 for me. And I'm going to score and then move over 1/8 of an inch and score. I'm going to go ahead and fold on both of my lines. Okay, should have a 1/8 of an inch spine. Now we just need to work on the other side. So I just flipped it all the way over. Okay. I'm sorry, I have a really bad habit of forgetting to ink. But since we have black, go ahead and take your brown cocoa and just a little bit of brown along the edges. Now it's going to get a little bit on your black, but it's okay. I don't want a ton. If it, you know, it'd be easier to do is this way. Take it and go away. Just a little bit of, I apologize. It's my first time using this method, and it's something that I'm going to have to put a little note to myself to do. Okay, I was able to get around that without making too much of a mess. Just a little bit. I don't go overboard. I'll try really hard to remember next time. Everybody yell at me, don't forget your ink. And even when it went on the black, it just soaked right in and you couldn't even tell. Okay, for the other side, just flip it straight over so that Beatrice is at the top. We're going to go get this other piece, this side that has this little pretty in it. And we're going to do the same thing. So just move your hinge down, lay Beatrice on top of herself. We're doing exactly the same thing. We're going to just cut off, line it all up. I'm even on both sides. Same distance down from here. I'm going to go ahead and run my pencil and fussy cut. going to throw the piece I cut up away. Measure up, cut off 16th. I'm going to cut off and leave a 1/16 of an inch border on both sides. So I'm going to go cut my little pieces where I've made my marks, and I'll be right back. This is what I cut off. I'm not going to keep that. Guess what I'm going to remember to do? I'm going to get my cocoa out, go around my edges. Now I'm not going to glue this down yet. Your reserve, you should have tucked away these little cards and these two little things. Go ahead and just break them all apart. So cut all 4 apart. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and keep this one and put the other ones in your reserve. So in your stockpile, you should have a piece of cardstock that looks like this. 3 1/2. 2 1/4, set it aside for a second. I want you to go ahead and trim off all of the white on this and come right back.